Communications between containers in Docker. Say we have multiple containers and we want them to communicate, let's say, two containers. It could be a HTTP server and another could be a client, which accept the response from the HTTP server. It could be a database server. Okay, so how do we establish this connection between containers? The first thing we need to know is the network mechanism behind the Docker containers. This is the host machine. Let's call it host, just host machine. A host machine could have multiple containers. Let's say this is the A container, okay, and this is the B container, okay. If A wants to communicate with B, it just send a request to B, establish a connection with A and B, okay, and B maybe could reply to A. So it's pretty simple. But what if we have more containers? Okay, let's say C and D, okay, and maybe E, okay, and C wants to talk with D, and E wants to talk with C, and maybe it wants to talk with A too, and D wants to talk with B. Well, you can see it would be a mess pretty quick. So the problem is, as the container number grows, the bandwidth grows exponentially. So Docker uses a bridge mechanism to deal with this situation. Say, whenever you want to make a connection with another container, you must make it through a bridge network. Let's say A wants to communicate with B, okay? You have to pass through this bridge, and this bridge will forward your message. Or in fact, it just established a connection. It remembers this connection. But you can treat it like that, okay? And C wants to communicate with D. It's the same thing. You communicate with this bridge, and this bridge will forward your message, okay? So the first thing we need to do is to create a bridge network, okay? So the first thing, Docker network, create, let's give it a name. Let's give it a web service or web server, okay? And the type or the driver of the network is bridge, and it is this, okay? And let's run it. It will return you a network ID. So we can inspect this network to see how many containers is currently using that, okay? Using that network, Docker inspect this ID or the network name. It's the same thing, web server. And you can see it has no container is currently using this network web server, okay? And we will just create A and B. It's for simple demonstration, okay? And the first one, A, is the API provider, and B is the API consumer. Let's say A is server and B is a client. Although they are both servers, but the purpose is different, okay? And the first one, we could just use MySQL or Apache, whatever. Let's just use simple Nginx, okay? The Docker pool Nginx. Let's use the latest version 1. And here's Nginx image. The Docker pool, another. Let's just use a simple one. Let's say Alpine. The latest version is 3, okay? And now we got both images downloaded, which could generate two containers, A and B, for us, okay? And let's create the first one. We can use Docker run or Docker create, okay? State. D means daemon, I means interactive, T means TTY. Let's give it a name. Since this name will be the host name of the container, which will be pretty important in the following step. In the first name, we could just simply name it as A, okay? Or server A, or just call it server. And let's call the B a client, okay? And next, we will make sure the server or A is using this bridge, okay? It's using this network we've just created. That network is called web server. I remember web server, right? And what else do we need? I think that's enough. We could just Nginx one, okay? It's the server, okay? And now let's create our client, okay? The client, it's the Alpine 3, right? And the network should be the same. They're using the same network, right? A and B is using the same network. So, and now if you run docker inspect the web server network, and you will see under this container key, there are two containers, which is the client and the server we've just created, right? So let's enter this client B. How do we enter it? Docker attach, okay? Attach. What's the name? Server, no, client, it's client, okay? And now we're inside this B, which is the Alpine Linux, okay? And we can curl to our server A to see if that actually works, to see the home page that provided by Nginx actually exists, okay? Use HTTP and the server, which is the name we provided for another container, okay? The server port is 80, which could be ignored, okay? And try it. Well, curl is not installed, okay? This command doesn't exist, so we need to install it first. The way we install a package in Alpine is by using apk add. It's just like yum in CentOS, or apt-get in Ubuntu, or brew in MacBook. It's a package manager. Let's add curl. It's a small package. Let's rerun this command to see if that works. It works! And you can see welcome to Nginx, which is returned from another server, which is this A, okay? And we're currently running command in B, right? So you can add more containers. So let's detach this container by Control P and Q. Okay, back to our own terminal, host terminal. Maybe we could docker run another container. Let's call this client too, okay? And let's run it. And this client could be C, right? And let's attach to this client too, okay? Docker attach to this client too, okay? And again, let's install this curl, okay? apk add curl and curl to HTTP. The server name is server, okay? And server, and bam, everything works. And this request is made by C, and it's returned by A, just like we did previously in B. Now let me detach this container and check out our docker inspect, check out our web server network, and it should have 3 containers.